If you're older than 10, you may remember the Got Milk series of advertisements run by the California Milk Processor Board, or as it's known in the biz, the CMPB. The 30-second ads typically featured a scenario where the absence of milk led to a negative outcome for the characters within. The goal of the campaign was to increase milk sales in the state of California, which it did. A perhaps unintentional side effect was the creation of one of the most iconic slogans in all of beverage history. To this day, the phrase, "got milk," and its variants consistently appear in pop culture and other media. Now, if you're older than 20, you may remember the first Got Milk spot. First premiered in 1993, it features a history aficionado, or maybe just some sort of Alexander Hamilton fetishist, who am I to judge, who misses an opportunity to win some serious cash from a radio contest because he didn't got milk. The spot was a huge hit, and is one of those perennial 90s era TV advertisements that immediately brings me back to that simpler time. A time where Nickelodeon shows weren't absolutely terrifying, and I wasn't allowed to get on Neopets without my parents' permission. I'd go as far as to put it up there with the Sears air conditioning commercial and the Zoo Books commercial. History lesson aside, popularity drives imitation, and one such clone, created by what I assume is the cast behind the popular musical Hamilton, is the subject matter for this needless analysis. Okay, so first let's break down the general idea behind both videos. In short, the man is an Alexander Hamilton buff. Man eats a peanut butter sandwich. Man gets chance to win money in exchange for answering a radio question about Hamilton. Man is unable to answer question because of the aforementioned sandwich. Man has no milk. Man is sad. Man dies. On first inspection, our copycat here has all of the elements of the original. In fact, the concept wasn't altered in the slightest, and except for a few of the DJ's lines, the dialogue is effectively the same. So what issue do I have with the recreation? Well, simply, the execution. I'll start by saying that I'm aware there was probably some disparity between the budgets of the original and the remake. Let's just say I don't care. Also, I'm going to be calling this by a few names. I don't think it qualifies as a sandwich, but I'll admit that I'm not an expert. The first issue I have with the remake is expressiveness, specifically regarding the peanut butter. The original actor seems genuinely focused on spreading the peanut butter across the slice of bread. The audience can immediately get the sense that this is a ritual for a man who is incredibly focused on the present task. In contrast, the actor in the remake is aggressively staring down a piece of bread while slowly going back and forth on it with a knife. This part in the remake reminds me of the scene in American Psycho with Bateman staring at the business card. The first commercial conveys focus, whereas the remake appears more angry and intimidating. A part of the issue with that is framing. In the remake, there are two shots of the man applying peanut butter to the bread. The first is a distance shot, where the viewer can't really tell from first glance what exactly the man is spreading on the bread. In fact, the can of peanut butter, which could be a clue for the audience, is obscured for most of the shot by the telephone. The second scene is a close-up of the PB and bread combo, but the texture of the peanut butter isn't as emphasized as the original, which is kind of important if the viewers are supposed to believe that this snack prevented the actor from speaking in an understandable manner. The original spot, on the other hand, has 3 separate angles observing the man applying the peanut butter, 2 up close and 1 overhead. Before he even consumes the PB and bread combo, the viewer knows that A, the substance on the bread is peanut butter, B, there is a lot of peanut butter on the bread, and C, the man spends some time, perhaps more than typical, applying the peanut butter to the bread. The point in establishing the man as a peanut butter enthusiast is to set the stage for the next part of the advertisement. In the original ad, the camera is specifically focused on the dude layering this peanut butter on the sandwich almost to the point of absurdity. The point of these shots is to over-establish the idea that peanut butter is gooey. Even if you've never had peanut butter before, you'd know that this concoction would be difficult to swallow all at once. And while the original does an excellent job of creating this feeling, the remake falls short. My next criticism would be the chosen setting of the remake. The original space seemed cartoonishly dedicated to that sole event. We get several shots of the Hamilton collection before the radio contest is even announced, and then we get a few more shots to set up some rising tension. The new setting is some sort of library with some props that the crew acquired to make it look more sophisticated. For some reason, they feel it's important we know that this guy owns a bust of some Greek god, even if it was related to Hamilton. And please, tell me if it is. The historical layman is not going to get the reference. It's obvious that the setting is important, but it's so meticulously organized in the original that we know from the opening shot that this is some sort of curated collection. It doesn't take a huge mental leap from there to think that the man is a curator or collector of historical artifacts. Then, the original gives the audience time to focus on what's actually important, the man and his peanut butter, before establishing a more Hamilton-based narrative. Finally, when the DJ announces the quiz question, we get a dramatic rising tension, along with some more Burr-Hamilton imagery, to tell us that the man knows the answer. The remake does none of this. It's not until 25 seconds in that the audience understands the man in the shot is meant to be an authority when it comes to Alexander Hamilton. Let me show you the two scenes side by side. Look, there's a Hamilton reference right away. It's a quick one, but if I were paying attention, I'd now have the name Hamilton on my mind. In the remake, we see a well-dressed individual in what appears to be 18th century fashion. Maybe it's Napoleon. I know it's definitely not Hamilton. They later reveal it's Burr, but why the hell would I know what Aaron Burr looks like? Okay, next we have a couple of statues. The original appears to contain a founding father. Definitely the right time period. Though this one is a little unfair because not everyone knows what Aham looks like. But in conjunction with the earlier clue, it might not be so tough a guess. Meanwhile, Peanut Butter Man is center stage in the remake, but a statue of some Greek figure, Aristotle, or maybe Zeus, is also prominent for some reason. Okay, if we didn't have Hamilton on our minds before, we do now. Couldn't be much clearer. In the remake, Greek Man has made a second appearance. Boy, he must sure be important to the scene. Why else would they show him twice? You see where I'm coming from. These first 17 seconds are, in concept, identical, but the content is so off from the original that the relationship is obscured until well into the remake. And another thing, look at how big that sandwich is in the original in relation to the dude's mouth. He is an absolute madman for trying to fit all of that in there. In contrast, the remake has some scrawny slice of Wonder Bread with peanut butter on top. I am genuinely unconvinced that the remake actor really wanted that money if he wasn't able to spit out that small little snack. Which brings me to my last point. Urgency. I mentioned before about expressiveness, but that's more on the actor. Creating a feeling in the scene is the director's primary responsibility, and the original does that very well. The actor only has a few shots on screen, and the rest is camera angles, shots of the surrounding, and sound. All of them come together so that when the actor takes action, we, the audience, are with him in his feeling. The remake has more than a few missteps, but some of the more unforgivable ones are in the climax of the ad. Take the timing of this milk shot. The original has the actor scrambling to pour the milk as he tells the DJ to hold on, while in the remake, the man is fairly calm until he realizes he doesn't got milk. The DJ telling him his time is almost up evokes a stressed reaction from the original actor, with a pan shot to show his posture shift. The remake demonstrates no stress. The man seems already defeated. And the concluding shot and fade out in the original are timed so that the aftermath of the situation can be left to the audience. We left the actor when the call ended. He's obviously distraught. What is he thinking about now? Then, the got milk flashes across the screen, and the audience ties the whole thing back to the absence of the milk. The remake shows a man defeated, staring wistfully away as he sets the phone down. The audience knows this man is sad, since the gap between the question and the final Aaron Burr are so far apart. The focus here is on the actor, not the response. All in all, the original was leagues better. It had every component carefully chosen, seemed to use multiple takes, and was clearly rehearsed and edited, whereas the remake was a couple of guys in a public library with some props they picked up from the dollar store. Based on my preceding arguments, we can only surmise that the director of the original was clearly a professional and probably went on to do great things.